Welcome to the Equipped Agronomy Podcast, where we bridge the gap between seeding equipment and agronomy. Presented to you by Borgo Industries. My name's Curtis DeGoyer, and I have across from me Mr. Jeff Strukoff.
Hello, good day, Curtis. How are you?
Hello, Jeff. I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm always good.
You're always, it is true. You are always that good. So, today, it's going to get even better because we're going to chat. What do we chat about?
I never know with you. I have no idea.
That's good. I like to keep you on your toes
There
here.
you go.
Where we get your unbiased opinion. We're going to chat today about something we have talked about last year. It's an ongoing trial, if you can imagine.
I know. Carry on. Sorry, you just had to say that, then I just know. I know where you're at.
Deep phosphorus.
Beautiful.
Around phosphorus stratification. We're going to do a follow-up on the trial that we put in 2023, spring of 2023. So we might just do a quick little recap on what we did, what we found, and then we'll get into this year's results on what we did and what we found. Okay. But it's a story, and it's a full story here.
Yeah.
So the backstory to doing phosphorus deeper placement, when I say deep placement, 5 inches deep is what we were kind of looking at. Okay. And there's trials out there I know people are doing that are going to go even deeper. 5 inches is what we found was practical, right?
Well, it was the limit of what the tool that we were using. That's as deep as it would go.
And we skimmed the tops of all the big boulders underneath. So I was like,
we
okay, I guess we'll go that deep.
5 inches is as deep as that thing would go. So that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Soil testing, I'd put it out as a challenge to everybody and anybody. When you do soil tests, or whoever does your soil tests, do one exercise where they punch holes, but then they break that core into every 2 inches, right? Or 0 to 2, then go 2 to 4, and then go 4 to whatever, 8, 12, 6, whatever else is left.
So as soon as you get below 4, you'll be shocked at how little there is down there.
Little there is, yes. Yeah. Yes, it's like all your phos, because if you think about it, we've been removing all of our phos. Mm-hmm. The root system is obviously a lot deeper than what we've been seeding at. Phos doesn't move very far in the soil, so our replenishment ends up in the first couple inches of the soil, but we've been pulling from quite a bit deeper from that, right? Lots of research out there, lots of different areas where the stratification occurs. All your phos, top couple inches, nothing down below.
And if you think about it practically, like when you're seeding and your seed place phos is going in the ground, it's always in that top half to, well, very rarely do you go deeper than 1.5 inches unless you're doing pulses or something like that. But for the most part, that's where you keep putting it. Just keep building it up, but it's all in that top 2 inches.
Doesn't move very far in the soil. It just kind of stays there.
Yep.
Okay, get a year, like, I don't know, what was a dry year?
21 and 23.
And 23, yep, and that's a good point.
And 89. And 02, or 01 and 02.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
Dry years where there is no moisture in the top couple inches, where all your phosphorus is at, no root activity. I shouldn't say no root activity. No uptake of nutrients. You need soil moisture to get that uptake. Well, all your phos is there. There's no moisture. Can't get it. So it's stuck. Right? Stranded there, stratified, whatever you want to call it.
Continuing to build up.
And then you don't get, all that big bang for your buck as far as, how much fertilizer prices are. Okay. So what did we try to do then? We said, well, let's put down more phosphorus. We're low on phos anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Which is crazy. We're crazy low, single digits. But on that soil test that we did, so I made that challenge out to everybody. When you do a composite sample, 0 to 8 on the one we did, we had, oh man, do I have it here? 6? I think it was 6 parts per million was like the average. But in the top 0 to 2, we actually had 16 parts per million. Yeah. And then it went to 7 from 2 to 4. And then from 4 to 8, so half of that sample, it was like 2 parts per million.
Yeah.
Right? The average was like, 6. But yeah, there was tons up I shouldn't say tons. There was enough up in the top, but nothing down below. Okay, so how do we get more deeper? Right? How do we get more on and deeper if we're going to put it on anyway? So we have this SPS 360 or 365, which is basically a beefed up cultivator. Basically, it's got cutting discs up front. It's got shanks that come along, and that's what does the tilling. We put an air kit on, and it's got harrows and it's got rolling baskets. So it can get through everything it can go a little deeper. It can hit rocks because it's got hydraulic trips on our shank. So we can go a little faster. We can go a little deeper. Did we sell a lot of them? Not really.
They pull really heavy.
They pull heavy, and they didn't make the ground black. A fantastic tool, though, for zero-till or no-till drills, as far as leaving some stubble but working some. It just didn't really fit, I think, in the wet years what guys were looking for. But
it was really good if you were trying to prevent erosion because you were, and then as far as finding depth for independent opener in the spring, like you never found it chasing, trying to find the bottom of the whatever. It always, Anyway,
it is a different story, but it was it was a great tool for us to use. We used this, hooked our cart up to it, our leading cart. We put down, what did we put down? What were the treatments on this? Okay. So we were seeding canola in 2023 on that particular piece of land. We seeded north and south with the drill. And we put down just our normal amounts of stuff, right? We had our Trimax, we had our seed on its own. We had 50 pounds of actual P2O5 going down the sideband, and then we had about 140 pounds of nitrogen going down the bander. Sulfur was broadcast ahead of time.
And that would be our control.
That would be our control. So now if you think about strips running east and west, right? We seed north and south, but now we got strips going east and west. Our control, we did nothing to, right? That makes sense. That was our control, still putting phos down. Next to that, we did working only. So we worked the ground 5 inches deep, didn't apply any product though. Next to that, we worked the ground one pass, right? Just one pass with that machine, but we put down 100 pounds of actual P2O5. So that was like 190-ish or so of 1152 of product. 100 pounds of actual P2O5, which there's some nitrogen in there and whatnot at that 5-inch depth. Again, east and west. And then we did a broadcast because a lot of people want to build up their phosphorus levels. An easy way to do it is a broadcast on top. But does it help?
Generally not the most efficient way to deliver phosphate
we've been
to
talking,
a plant. Technically, we weren't, I know from previous experience broadcasting phosphate on alfalfa ground, you do get a response, not as big as putting it in the root zone, but we did actually get a response on alfalfa.
Yep.
So I didn't really know what to expect.
Yep.
But anyway, that's what we did. We held the openers up in the air, we broadcasted our strips, and we replicated this trial 3 times. So each strip was replicated 3 times.
Yep. Control, working only deep app, and broadcast, seeded it across the other way. Boom. What did we find?
It was actually impressive.
Phenomenal.
Well, considering the year.
Again, the year was wet early on.
Yeah.
And
seems
then,
like a trend, eh?
Yeah, we've had a couple of years of that. And then dried right out.
Drier than dry.
Like we had 3.5 inches of rain, I think, in 2023. And our
correct,
and our average is 12-ish.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
So dry year at the end. So now the story just unfolded.
Yeah.
Right? It was,
of course, we talked earlier about how phos is only available in moist soil. So, your control, the top inch or 2, in this case, like the top frickin' 4 was, sorry, I swore there. Dried right out. But we had phos deeper in the profile where it was moist.
Exactly. And at least for longer. It might have dried out eventually, but at least for longer.
Yeah. So there was some significant differences in a dry year.
Visually, it flowered longer. We could see that. Just pick out that deep app.
Yeah.
No problem. Yield-wise, though, so the control went 50, so that was just our average. Working only went 49.8, so no difference there, right? The deep app, so working plus applying that phosphorus, 56.8 bushels. Significant.
Yeah.
Like almost
6.8 different.
Yeah, 7-ish bushels more. Like it was quite a bit. The broadcast did come in at 53.7. So I mean, there was a bit of a bump there. I think to your point, it did rain early in the spring, a couple inches, maybe help wash some of that. Phos does move a little bit in the soil. I don't know. Maybe you just had a little bit more in there. I mean, we did apply quite a bit more phos. That was 100 pounds of actual P2O5. So there was a bump there too. But that deep app was unquestionally...
Yeah. There was a difference, and you could see it all year, and we recorded it in the yield trial.
We did some stats, or we did some configuration, economics on it is the word I'm looking for there. Thank you. Essentially, even though it got 7 bushels more, that paid for the application, that paid for the product, but we didn't make any more money.
Didn't make any more money.
So that year.
Yeah. Broke even at best.
Broke even. Okay. Okay, so that chunk of land.
But that's not really what we were going after either, because this is a longer term play. So we were trying to amortize the cost of the fertilizer over several years, because you put down a significant amount in 1 year, and hopefully you can capitalize it on years to come. So that was the idea behind the thing. So breaking even on the first year, that was actually pretty. I was impressed.
We were looking golden.
It was pretty good.
Looking pretty good.
And then 24 rolls around.
24
and
rolls
what
around.
did we find, Curtis?
Again, okay, so we didn't do anything. We had those strips marked out. Again, we seeded north and south-ish. I think I went off a couple degree angle, but wheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, so anything that we get a bump this year is all gravy, basically, right? This is where it's going to pay off. Deep app. We had quite a bit more moisture. Again, it was heavily tilted towards the start of the year.
This field was well drained, though.
Was well drained. Yeah, chunk there. So then we go seed across. We're looking at the wheat, and then we come in and we harvest it in those strips going east and west. And what do we find? Well, the exact opposite from last year, actually, as far as yield. Well, first of all, the yield was all pretty darn close. We were within like 3 bushels on all these different strips. But it was funny where
the control, it was the control and the working yielded
only,
the most, and the 2 strips that we broadcast and put the deep banding on yielded the least.
Yeah. Yes. So we had anything that produced higher yield last year produced lower yield this year, essentially.
So I know you always have a hypothesis. I know you do.
Hypothesis. Yes.
Do you why do you think that is?
Well, we did nothing else different. First of all, I was really sad. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to pay off for the FOSS. But anyway, it is what it is. Everything else being held exactly the same. We still put FOSS down with the wheat. We did everything the same. The only thing I can come up with is that we took out 7 bushels more on those strips last year. 7 bushels of canola, right? I forget how many. Oh, it's going to be bad. I had worked it all out, how many thousands of pounds it takes per bushel of canola, and 50, 60. Anyway, I worked it out. Essentially, it took 2.1 inches of rain equivalent.
More out of those strips.
Out of those 3 strips.
The higher yield.
Because of the higher yield from last year.
I'd buy that.
And we didn't get 2 inches more on those exact strips. More.
No, that's
right?
No.
And so this year, so 2024, again, we had okay rain. We were up to almost 11 inches, I think, this year. Heavily weighted towards the start of the year, though. Like
Very
it was
heavily.
all came in May and June. Yeah. And then hardly anything July. So it was starting to dry out.
Yeah.
When we had good yields, we were on these strips like 90 bushel yields. Could it have been more if we had another extra rain? I think so, absolutely. Right? So we had like 91 bushel on the working only, and Deep App had 88.5 bushels. So I really do think that was part of it. I mean, were any of these differences significant? No. The trend was there though, where the higher yield last year produced lower yields this year.
I think it's going to be really interesting going forward, because we are going to do this trial again.
Yeah.
One difference from last winter to this winter is the fact that we actually have a ton of snow this year.
We had no snow last year
The
either.
year before, no snow. There was.
Yes. So
we did have a little bit, and then it melted in January, and then it rained a little bit in January. But yeah, for the most part, there was no runoff in the spring. There was no significant moisture, once the snow that never really came left.
Yeah.
So this year, there's 2.5 feet, at least 2.5 feet out there. So I think that'll play a factor in this year's results.
I have no idea what to expect anymore.
Yeah.
Going back to canola, though.
Never bet on trials, Curtis.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good to have a theory, but results will just speak for themselves. Okay, so that was that trial. Mm-hmm. We put in another one too, because it had a lot of traction. Lots of people were asking about this, so we put another one in wheat this year, and there's a few things that we wanted to address that we didn't address in that initial trial. One being, I mentioned there's a little extra nitrogen going down, right? Right. And so, that was one more treatment where we wanted to put another deep app of just nitrogen, the equivalent, so it was like 20 pounds of actual N, just to make sure that equaled out. Mm-hmm. So we got that one. But then the other thing we wanted to look at was this other nutrient called potassium. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Once or twice.
Once or twice. Again, it doesn't get a whole lot of love out there. Phosphorus didn't. Now it's starting to get more. Potash, some guys have been putting it on for a while, but it could be a thing into the. I think we've been removing quite a bit.
And guys are figuring out too that just because it shows up with lots on the soil test doesn't necessarily mean it's available, because we have very high levels of calcium and magnesium, which ties up potassium. So, one of the best ways of getting it access to a plant is to put more in the ground.
Exactly. And again, it comes down to it doesn't move a whole lot in the soil, right? Nope. So are we getting that stratification from it? Not entirely sure. Unfortunately, when we did the soil test on this year's one there early on, didn't catch it in time, but it, didn't get good results. We'll get those next year again here to see if there was some stratification. Put this trial in. Control, working only. Then we had that deep end to cover off the nitrogen from the phosphorus. We had a deep phosphorus. Then we had a deep potash. Then we had a deep phosphorus and potash. Then we had a broadcast across those three scenarios as well. So broadcast phos, broadcast potash, broadcast phos, and potash. Mm-hmm. Following that bouncing ball?
I'm following.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different treatments there. Going down. So again, seeded, this particular one was seeded east and west, and these treatments went down north and south. What did we find this year? Really nothing crazy.
That was a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Very much so, actually.
I think it's more of a product of the year, though.
It could have been. It could be wheat too in general. Maybe it doesn't respond as well to the deep replacement.
All I know is that wheat did so unbelievably good. Considering the weather events and everything else, it turned out well.
One thing we did notice though was the deep application of P and K. It definitely went down harder. Like there was some lodging out there in strips. You could see it from the drone. And I would say, and actually those tended almost to go a little bit lower yield trending wise. Again, we try to do our best, go slow, pick up everything we can, but there was some pasted ones out there. So that may have played a role in that. I'm not entirely sure what to make of some of these results here. There's a swing from 82 to 87, basically in the treatments. So something. I mean, the working only did the best, actually.
Did you make these available on the website?
They are.
Yeah. Because sometimes when we're talking, I know maybe some people might get a little bit confused.
Yes.
But when you see the graphs and everything, it's all available on the website. So that's a good reference.
Yeah. Explained what we did, how we did it. This one now, I'm excited for this one for next year. Mm-hmm. The canola going across it now. Will there be a difference next year in the canola? Is there going to be any response to any deeper potash? Right, something you don't really think about too often on canola wise side of things. But I guess that's why we try these, right? To try them out. Mm-hmm. I was really hoping, to be going back to that first one, right? To have some really good results back, but it's not the way it went, and that's okay though. I still think there's merit in some of this. I want to follow up. I know there's some other research out there that was doing really, really deep on phosphorus, like 14 inches deep. 12 to 14 12 inches. To 14. I haven't followed up on that yet, but that could be interesting. More as a interest sakes, not necessarily a practical point, but a lot of our root uptake happens at that 14-inch depth. So if we can get it down into the moisture where it's always going to be moist, it's going to be our highest availability of nutrient uptake. Obviously, just getting it down there is the problem. So
might not have that problem in Melfort. We definitely have that problem in St. Preux.
Yes. Well, there's clay though. I mean, you get down to that clay.
I'd rather have clay than boulders.
Boulders pulling up and going through there. So I thought it'd be good just to do a quick follow-up on this trial. Mm-hmm. I think there's still some merit to if we're putting down, and we've talked to guys about that too, if they're putting down fall nutrients, even anhydrous, guys are maybe hooking up a dry applicator, dry tank to be able to put down if they're going over the field anyway. I think there's still merit, but you know what? This year showed that that's where it's not 100% every time.
The results are the results.
The results are the results. So Did you have anything else wanted to kind of add to that, or
No, that was a
any
good
other
discussion.
thoughts?
Actually.
Yeah, nice little.
If you guys, anybody listening has questions, please use the website as a reference because all that information's on there.
And if you have theories or wants to try something too on this trial or other ones,
Let us know.
We'll go from there. All right. Well, thanks very much, Jeff.
Good chat, Curtis.
See you next time.
Bye.